Hey guys! Here's part 5 of What If Naruto Was a Mokuton User. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start! Chapter 13, Advent. The left hand of the cannon sunk into the ground, and Kakuzu's corpse fell down, still bearing that oddly proud smile that had robbed Naruto of any sense of satisfaction. Terrified, Yamanaka Ino looked into the crimson eyes of the person she once loved. Was this still Uzumaki Naruto? Was this the gentle but rash boy she grew up with? One enemy down, 2 to go. Ino-san, you should never have come here. Not after what you did to Aji-chan. The shivering blonde peeked at the fallen Akatsuki, and then looked back at the boy whom she had grown up alongside. She didn't know what to expect. Of course, he wouldn't know the truth behind the distorted story of how she and her team had killed 2 girls of the Amigekyo trio. He wouldn't be aware that it had been faked. No, for this Zetsu guy, it would be far more convenient to tell Naruto believable lies. But why the masquerade? And more urgent, how could she change it? And Naruto-kun? Why, Ino? Naruto kept his voice leveled, but it was obvious that he was straining to keep his composure. He restrained himself so that he wouldn't kill her right then and there, as he had made a promise to at least listen to her first. Why did you attack Ajisai and her team? I didn't. Stop your lies. Naruto snapped. The suffocating pressure of the chakra he radiated increased in density, leaving Ino barely in a state of consciousness. I saw it all. I saw how you, Shikamaru, Choji, and Asuma attacked them. You 4 attacked me, couldn't beat me, and then you decided to go after the one I cherished most? You killed her! What remained of the 7-foot wooden demon after Kakuzu had attacked it, now tried to crawl towards Ino, responding to Naruto's rage. The damage that Kakuzu had caused to it with his Katon Jutsu was quite significant, but not enough to completely destroy the upper half of its torso. What the automaton wanted to do, however, went against Naruto's promise. He had promised Uzumaki Kushina that he'd at least listen to Ino, figure out what drove her to do what she'd done. So he destroyed the thing. Kunamori-sama. The other girls struggled. Swearin had managed to pull herself from the ground, although her trembling legs barely supported her. Having been knocked out earlier, fainting due to his murderous intent, it was an understatement to say that Swearin wasn't having a good day. She had expected him to be angry, but even Swearin had never expected him to have this much chakra. This wasn't at the level of a human anymore. No, Naruto-san, I should say. Please stop. You are being deceived. Why would I trust a captive? Naruto scoffed. Especially one flanked by Yamanaka? Their petty mind tricks are well known. Zetsu did it. You were Aji-chan's friend, and for that I will spare your life. But what kind of nonsense is this? I want to hear her. Naruto pointed at Ino. Explain why Ajisai had to die. Do not waste my time. How can you be sure that she did it? Swearin countered. Zetsu showed me what he had seen, and I tell you that it was Zetsu who ambushed us. Multiple clones, of which the first ones were pretending to be Konoha shinobi, Swearin blurted out, her nerves making her talk faster than usual. Or was it the way the roots and plants around them were twitching? The usually calm and collected green-haired girl found herself sweating, terrified simply from looking him in the eyes. These crimson eyes were something inhuman. We cut off an arm of one of the fakes, and it turned white. Ajisai realized that our attacker was Zetsu, because you had warned her about him, or something like it. I mean, he knew your real name. That's when she knew for sure. What happened? Naruto glared. He didn't want Pain-sama to learn your real name. Ajisai knowing your name made her a threat. Zetsu said that Pain-sama was just a tool to him, just like you. And if you were grieving for Ajisai, you would be easier to manipulate. He wanted to use you against Konoha. Swearin finished her outburst. It was nearly impossible to distinguish those clones from real, but they fought differently. Kunai, rather than Jutsu. Those surveillance clones are too weak, unless Zetsu deliberately. Naruto scowled. Now that he remembered what happened before his memories were torn asunder, Naruto saw the slight inconsistencies. Not using any jutsu was one thing, but with their facial expressions, the way they moved, and how they spoke, he came to realize that something about those recordings was wrong, even if the differences were marginal. He knew Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji too well not to notice these tiny deviations, but Zetsu couldn't spy on us. Not there, not in Amigekyo, not without Pain knowing. Perhaps he could not, but he did notice how you changed, Kurama spoke up. And Zetsu being the spy he is, he would notice even the faintest traces of her chakra. Was it all because of me? Ugh, stop it with your self-pity. You did not kill that girl. It was that Zetsu who did that. How do you know she's even telling the truth? The Yamanaka can easily warp someone's mind into believing such a lie, which should rule out Swearin as a credible source. That leaves Ino, who killed Ajisai. Then ask yourself this: who would you rather believe, Zetsu or that girl? I'd rather know what happened than just believe someone's version of the truth, Naruto thought disdainfully. Fool, do you really think you can know everything? Even a being as old as I am has a limit to what he can know and understand. Our knowledge is never complete, Kurama scolded. However, I can tell you that I do not sense any negative emotions from that Yamanaka girl, not in the sense that she is intending to harm you, at least, and neither does she feel remorse or guilt when you talk about the dead girl. Only sadness. Why are you with Ino? Naruto looked at Swearin, ignoring the annoyed Kyuubi. He was still livid, but part of his anger towards the two girls was already broken. Now there was some doubt that he blamed the wrong people. She and her team found me there, and healed me. We were sent there by Tsunade-sama, Ino chimed in, seeing Naruto's look. The Umbu found out that you came from Amagekyo before your battle with us. She looked away, pained. That is why Tsunade-sama sent us. Because I knew that it was you, and Tsunade-sama didn't want more people to know that you hadn't died, but that you were turned against Konoha. She wanted to drag me back to Konoha. Naruto frowned. Understandable. As a Jinchuriki, I am a valuable asset to Konoha. With the Mokuton Kekkei Genkai, my value is even higher. She just wants you to come back because of you, Naruto-kun, and not because of those stupid political reasons. Ino had seen Tsunade hide her pain for far too long to tolerate a false accusation of Tsunade seeing Naruto merely as a strategic tool. Naruto remained silent. Whatever memories he had of Konoha, he could not forget the suffering that he had seen in Amagekyo, suffering which was in part caused by Konoha, a village that saw itself as good. It acted with self-righteousness and maintained the pretense of being something they weren't. He had cashed in too many bounties from the village to be blind to the truth that Konoha rather ignored. Naruto knew that if he was to push through with pacifying the world by force, Konoha would become an enemy as well. When we were at the border, I sensed a battle nearby. When we arrived at the scene, we found Swearin and the other two kunoichi who had died. I found this. Ino held up Ajisai's ring, and knew that they were somehow related to you. So I healed Swearin to the point to where we could transport her to Konoha, where Tsunade-sama healed her injuries. That's when we found out how you were used by Akatsuki. That this Zetsu, whoever that may be, manipulated you, and that he killed Ajisai. That ring does not belong to you. Naruto snatched it from Ino's hand. He remained silent, not moving, just staring at the wooden ring that he now held in his hand. He had given the ring to Ajisai that day, the day he had claimed her, in Aim's equivalent of a betrothal. Or was it Ajisai who had claimed him? Naruto couldn't tell. Without her opening his heart, he would never have even considered such a life for himself: marriage, children, and a long and peaceful life, a normal life. Through her, for the first time in his life, as far as he had remembered it at that time, he had found a purpose of his own. Rather than the tool he had been, Ajisai had made him feel human again. Zetsu had taken that from him. You know that you will kill those two if you keep raising your chakra like that. Kurama spoke unusually softly, almost as if he was placating Naruto. Since you don't want to continue this fight, I'm going to pull out now. If you leave that cage open, I'll replenish your chakra. Don't worry, Kurama. I won't lock you up. Unless you try to test me again, of course. Testing you now would serve no purpose. But be aware that your body will have to adjust to my chakra. Opening the seal to this degree will increase your reserves, as well as put a strain on your tenketsu that will eventually strengthen you. Just like applying force with your muscles, those tenketsu will eventually grow stronger. But don't try to force it open too much, too abruptly, or your tenketsu might rupture. Thank you, Kurama. Thank me by making sure I don't end up as a part of the Jubi. Kuno. Naruto-san, what will you do now? Swearin asked carefully, hoping that the sudden drop in his chakra was a good sign. I swear to you that what Ino and I said is the truth. I swear it on my life, and on my friendship with Ajisai and Fia. Why you could come with us to Konoha, Ino tried, obviously hoping he would. In fact, if he didn't, she doubted she would return. She'd rather stay with him, although she worried about her parents. Yusuke and his icy glare silenced her. By destroying my ring, I antagonized Akatsuki. Pain will come after me once he has the Nanabai. Kisame and Haiden were already heading for Kumo. I have little doubt that Kisame will succeed at capturing the Hachibi. With Samahata at his side, He will be the most effective fighter against the Jinchuriki that Akatsuki has, now that I have left. If he and Pain join forces, I could be in trouble, Naruto pondered. They'd have a very real chance at defeating me. He held up Ajisai's ring, and with a gentle nudge of his chakra the object expanded just enough to fit around his wider finger. Naruto held out his right index finger, where he had worn his Akatsuki ring earlier, and put Ajisai's ring on it. I vowed that I would give Aji-chan a world of peace. I guess I cannot meet her again until I have given everything I have to fulfill that vow. That is what Tu-san would have wanted me to do. That is what Ka-san wanted. Yes, I will return to Konoha. For now. It seems both sides would profit from that course of action. Ino could jump in joy, but halted herself when she saw the determined frown on his otherwise saddened face. Naruto-kun? Ino, released Swearin. Why yes, I won't flee, Swearin promised the shaken blonde. If I returned to Amigakure after being healed by Konoha, they'd kill me after interrogation, at least. Not to mention that the safest place from Zetsu would be at the side of Kunemori-sama. Naruto-san, I mean. I have to get used to the name, my apologies. Just call me Naruto. You know that I don't like formalities, Naruto smiled softly, although the smile never reached his eyes. But Ino, I warn you just as I will warn Tsunade when I see her, I will no longer be used or manipulated. I am no longer a tool. Nor is the Kyuubi Konoha's property. From here on out, I only answer to myself. He turned around, and walked in the direction of Konoha. Swearin quickly followed, leaving Ino to gather her wits for a second. On one end, she was overjoyed that she finally would have Naruto back in Konoha, even if he had changed a lot. But on the other hand, his declaration would not go well with Konoha. At all, the council would distrust him for his past actions, and fear him for his power. This deviant attitude would only worsen the situation. It seemed that even though he did return, conflict was still unavoidable. First things first, she mumbled to herself. He just heard the truth about his fiancée's death. Ino felt herself cringe by saying the word. She was supposed to wed him, not some random girl from Amigakure. Still, it had been his decision. It was painfully obvious that he had loved Ajisai, and that he still loved Ajisai, even though the girl had died. Naruto-kun will need time and space to process it all. Perhaps after some time, he'll mellow out a little. He said he remembered his past, so he knows me, right? Ugh, why do I sound so selfish? It is disgusting, she scolded herself. She could not, however, deny what her heart told her to do. Tsunade, flanked by Naro, Shikaku and Shizen, walked into the room they had set up. While the building at the center of the Forest of Death was usually used for events such as the Chunin exams, it also offered a nice secluded place for highly important meetings where no disturbances were allowed. The forest was crawling with umbu, backed by the forces that each Kage had brought along. It was not that the foreign nations brought in an army, but a force of 20 men each had been enough to make them feel at ease. Tsunade was not happy about allowing such a number of skilled shinobi within the bounds of her village, but there was no time to be picky. Concessions had to be made to gain cooperation. Right now, the Gakage, all 5 of them together, would have to determine the fate of the world. Would they be able to unite against Akatsuki? Would they foolishly cling to their pride? Tsunade knew that today was a very important day. I wonder how this day will pass, Shikaku muttered. Considering the difficulty of assembling all of the Kage, I would presume there will be a lot of disharmony in the way the 5 look at the state of the world. Jinchuriki are stolen, Shikaku. Most nations know the threat. The Kazekage perhaps most of all, considering how she lost her little brother to Akatsuki. Tsunade scowled. She wasn't looking forward to this meeting, which would undoubtedly dissolve in endless discussions. On top of it all, there was the matter that Ino had vanished a few days ago. Tsunade wouldn't admit it, but if she had had the choice she would have gone with Ino. Bringing back the brat who had dragged her out of her drunken stupor and effectively made her Hokage was a job that she should have done, especially considering the threat he currently posed. Temari-sama knows, and I-sama knows, but I wonder about the others. The Mizukage knows who took her predecessor, Shizen spoke up. Tsunade nodded before she took her place at the large oval table. Shikaku and Shizen stood behind her, and the 3 patiently awaited the others. In these past days, the Kage had arrived one by one, and now that the Tsuchikage had finally come, the talks could finally commence. Ironically, the man who had been last to arrive in Konoha was the first to enter the room. Ryotenbin no Inoki, the sandaime Tsuchikage, was a short and old man, and yet arguably the most dangerous out of the 5. Getting this stubborn and proud man to agree to establish an alliance would not be an easy task. For someone clinging to so many grudges of the past, joining forces with the enemy would not be an easy decision. Regardless, the sheer fact that he had agreed to talk was promising. It showed how worried Iwa was. Small as the Tsuchikage was, one of his guards was the complete opposite. Akatsuki was easily 6.5 feet tall, and his physique made Tsunade think that Iwa abducted him from the Akimichi clan. By contrast, the tomboyish granddaughter of Inoki, Kuratsuchi, seemed easier to get along with. But Tsunade did not fool herself. The young woman was undoubtedly loyal, and if the rumors were correct, she was highly skilled as well. In fact, spies pointed her out as the most logical successor for the Sandaime, even if she was still lacking in terms of experience. Hokage, Inoki nodded curtly. Tsuchikage Dano, Tsunade decided to be slightly more polite. In these times, pointless provocations would only hinder her goals. The rather awkward silence that followed was broken when the Kage and Nizukage entered, both calmly discussing something about a trade agreement, if Tsunade heard it correctly. Temari smiled softly at the Hokage as they greeted, her being flanked by her remaining brother and her former teacher. Terumi Mei was more difficult to gauge for Tsunade. The woman was in her early 30s and probably at the peak of her beauty. Jiraiya had half-jokingly mentioned in one of his reports that he had finally seen a woman who nearly rivaled Tsunade's beauty. It was one of the only jokes that he had made since he had left. Tsunade was pained when she thought back at that day, that stupid discussion in which she, in the heat of her emotions, had hurt the man so terribly. One joke in 3 years was so out of character for him, that she knew she really had hit a nerve. Although that had been obvious the moment she had seen his broken-hearted expression, Hokage Dano, Mei inclined her head. Thank you for receiving us all. It is my pleasure, Mizukage Dano. Tsunade dragged her mind back to the present day. It seems we only have to wait for. The door flew open with a loud bang, the 8 guards present all jumping into defense. To their relief, it was only the Reikage who entered. The bulky man wasn't exactly known for his subtlety, which manifested even in small things like opening a door. Rumor had it that in Kumo, I usually walked through walls instead of using the doors. Judging by the way he manhandled the poor door of this room, that rumor was true. Reikage Dano, Tsunade nodded. Please take a seat, so that we can start our talks. Humph. You talk as if you are leading this meeting. Inoki just had to prove his overweening sense of pride by putting such a minor matter into discussion. We are guests in Konoha, so it seems logical that Hokage Dano takes the lead, Temari said with a small scowl. She did not carry much love for Iwa, because they had been harassing Suna's borders ever since Gaara had died. I agree with the Kazekage, Mei chimed in. Let us move on to more important matters, rather than waste time on such pointless drivel, I said brusquely, making the tiny Tsuchikage scowl angrily at him. We are here for Akatsuki, not for any nonsense about who gets to open a meeting. Inoki now openly glared at the Reikage, but remained silent. Scraping her throat, Tsunade stood up from her seat. The Reikage is correct, the main threat that we face is Akatsuki. That group has been aiming for the Jinchuriki, but we can only guess about their goals. Is that everything we know? Inoki grumbled. I thought there would be something more concrete than that. Akatsuki consists of S-ranked shinobi. Together, they would pose a threat to any of our villages if they attack us one by one. With the Bijou, they'd able to rule the world, Mei stated. They abducted and killed Yujito, and intended to do the same to my little brother. I slammed his fist on the table, making the poor object creak under the force. They are scum. And interestingly, it is a Wagakure that often hires them as mercenaries. From the corner of her eye, Tsunade saw Shizen cringe, and wished she could afford to show the same emotion. That wasn't something she could do, though. As a Hokage, her every move reflected on Konoha. Antagonizing either Iwa or Kumo would destroy any chance at an alliance. And whatever Akatsuki was doing, with their power and the usage of the Bijou they caught, it would have to be bad news. The 5 nations had to unite, if they wanted to survive. Aside from determining who funded them, are you aware that one of their members has the wood-release Kekei Genkai? Okay, now Tsunade could not help but show her scowl. Thank you, Mizukage, for bringing that up. And now she had to explain that sensitive topic to the most powerful shinobi of the world. Damn it. Where is my bottle of sake when I need it? Kunomori-kun killed Kakuzu and threw away his ring, turning his back on Akatsuki. How rude. I see you lost control over your puppet, Pain remarked dryly, making the plant-like being smirk mischievously. Where has the Kyubi Jinchuriki gone? We suspect Konoha, but we can't track him. He'd know. Even my Hoshi no Jutsu, spore technique, doesn't work on him. His Mokuton is a serious disadvantage to us. Black Zetsu neglected to mention that Naruto would only sense white Zetsu's chakra, but he still had to keep a trick up his proverbial sleeve. I knew he would be difficult to control. Pain remained calm as ever. Konan did not show any outward reaction, but the news made her feel conflicted. That boy, for some reason, she kept seeing Yahiko in him, not just because of the superficial similarities, but also due to that doomed romance between him and Ajisai. Kisame and Haiden won't suffice. Not after how Naruto-kun has grown, I am aware. And it would have been a lot less difficult if you had not foolishly killed that girl. Pain reprimanded Zetsu. Both halves now scowled. Obviously, Pain had seen more than Zetsu had anticipated, but he still doesn't know everything. Loss and hatred blind poor Pain-san. Yet he will pave the road to Mother's return. The two halves briefly internally conversed. You intended to lure him in a trap, using the girl. How cunning. I'd rather call it ironic. Watch your words, Zetsu, Pain warned, not pleased by the implicit comparison with Hanzo. Regardless of which path I choose to walk, Uzumaki Naruto will fall. You should be careful, though. Zetsu refused to show his unpleasant surprise at Pain's knowledge. He killed Orochimaru and Kakuza like they were rookies. He is a threat, even to you, and yet he is merely human. Humans can struggle all they want, yet they still fail when opposing a god. Pain looked at the unconscious man at his feet. The Rokubi stood no chance. Neither will the Kyubi. What about the others? I noticed that something was off, and dispatched someone else to retrieve the Gobi. Kisame and Haiden should be capable of capturing the Hachibi. Oh, mysterious Mr. Ten again? Why was he never there to aid us with the sealing? Are you, of all people, really in a position to complain about me keeping secrets, Zetsu? That is a lie. Reikage Dano, please control your temper, Tsunade sighed. After hours, they still had not been able to reach any sort of consensus. Every time they got close, one of the Kage would throw in something that derailed the conversation. Such a Kajdano, we are getting nowhere if you keep trying to divide us. Akatsuki is becoming a threat too big for any of us to face alone. We need cooperation. Hokage Dano is correct, Mei inclined. I fought one of their members personally, while the other, who was no more than a boy, fought the Yandere Mizukage. In spite of his insanity, Yagura was a perfect Jinchuriki who could wield all the chakra of the Sanbai, and yet, he did put up one hell of a fight. In a swirl of leaves, a blond young man and two kunoichi suddenly appeared. Although Yagura wouldn't be much of a threat to me if I had to fight him now. Brat? Tsunade gasped in surprise. Is that you, Naruto? Yep. I've returned Bachan. He stared at her blankly. For now Naruto smacked to the ground, a courtesy of a lightning-covered Reikage. I aimed to grab Naruto by the throat, but Naruto swatted his hand away. His blue eyes had turned crimson, and the chakra he emitted. Don't do that again, old man, if you value your life. It wasn't just I who moved, though. All the guards were ready to attack. Inoki remained deceptively calm, while Mei would have attacked Naruto if not for I literally beating her to the punch. Temari, meanwhile, looked as if she had seen a ghost. Despite Naruto swatting away Ai's hand, the Reikage and the Mizukage both attempted to attack, only attempted, because roots and vines burst from through the ground, binding them and their followers, and dragging the two hot-headed Kage back to their seats. And Naruto? But you died. I don't die easily, Temari. Or should I say Kazakage-sama now? Naruto smiled sadly. Who are you, intruder? I glared. That chakra. I am Uzumaki Naruto, wielder of the Mokuton Kekkei Genkai, Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko, and son of Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. He silenced everyone in the room. Inoki was, this time, the first to move. Well, he tried to move. Why don't we stop this foolishness, and discuss Akatsuki? Naruto glared at the old man. While he dusted off his clothes, he realized that he was glad that he had dropped his Akatsuki cloak along with his ring and now only wore the dark blue, almost gray, pants and shirt. If not, these fools would have been even more annoying. With the distraction, Ino grabbed the mortified Swearin by the wrist, and moved the two of them out of the circle. They were stopped by Kuratsuchi, though, who warned them not to move. They're not enemies of you, Naruto chuckled darkly. But I'd appreciate it if they'd survive this nonsense. And you? What do you know about that scum? I demanded, lightning still crackling around him, ready to break free from his restraints the moment he saw an opening. I won't go easy on you if you don't answer me. You're faster than I am, old man, but don't push your luck. I came here because I wanted to come. I might as well leave, and you would never know what kind of enemy you are facing, not until it is too late, that is. But I see patience isn't a quality which you possess, so I will keep it simple so that even a musclehead such as yourself can follow. Naruto could practically hear the man's molars grind. I am a Jinchuriki, but I was presumed to be killed 3 years ago, after Akatsuki attacked my team. The simplified version is that I lost most of my memories that day, memories which I only recently retrieved. However, as you can see by Mizukage-sama's expression, I did not exactly do nothing for those 3 years. You are part of Akatsuki? Mei growled. Yeah, a Jinchuriki without memories, with a Kekei Genkai that made me the worst possible enemy to any Jinchuriki. I was the perfect tool for them, Naruto nodded calmly. And considering how they have to seal the Kyuubi last, keeping me close was even better for them. Sadly for them, my memories had not vanished completely. They were sealed away, and I unlocked them again. As I'm not planning to get the Kyuubi extracted from me, and refused to die at the hands of those who manipulated me as a tool, I defected after terminating a few of their members. Tsunade glared at Ino, who hung her head in shame. It is true, Tsunade-sama. He killed one of Akatsuki, a man named Kakuzu. He also killed Orochimaru. If what Naruto had already said did not throw the room into chaos, it was Ino's statement that did the job. Orochimaru was feared among all 5 nations, and Kakuzu, well, after his adventure in Mizuno Kuni, Mei had made sure to spread information on the old man. After Takigakure ended up being decimated, the amount of information only increased. The kinjutsu that Kakuzu was said to have stolen made the man virtually immortal, and yet Naruto had killed the man. Then again, Orochimaru was notoriously difficult to fight as well. They both perished, yes, Naruto indifferently confirmed the claims. Kakuzu was the one who butchered my team, so I had a score to settle with that man. Orochimaru was, well, let's just say that he made a proposal that annoyed me greatly, and paid the price. And we are just supposed to believe that? Inoki scoffed. Regardless of your excuses, you are a traitor to your village, boy. You cooperated with the scum that aims to. I told you to stop this foolishness. Naruto stopped restraining himself. Why don't we give them a taste of our power, Kurama? The floor cracked, several of the guards stumbled and fell to their knees. Ino and Swearin once again suffered the same terror as they had experienced before, the same overwhelming murderous intent. Even the Kage were silenced, pale and sweating even though they tried to keep up appearances. Madara once boasted that you were easily scared, Inoki. I see that accursed Uchiha wasn't lying for once. Kyuubi, Inoki hissed, for once not enjoying to be reminded of something from his past. You subdued the Kyuubi? Cooperation, Naruto corrected him. The Kyuubi and I share a common enemy, thus we decided to cooperate, as it would give us both the best odds. Of course, we could struggle, where either he would gain dominance over my body, or I would make him bow to my will. But unlike you, the Kyuubi was able to see that petty struggles are pointless in front of a stronger opponent. Are you saying that Akatsuki has something that is capable of scaring the Kyuubi? Tsunade conjectured. Why do you think Akatsuki is collecting the bijou, Bachan? You are one of them, so why don't you tell us? Mei glared, obviously not trusting his story. She did not seem to be so ready to attack him right now. Fear provided a compelling reason to listen to his story. You were that rebel leader, the one who nearly got herself killed by Kakuzu, aren't you? Naruto frowned. You should be well aware that your hostility is rather futile. You people chose a building in the center of a forest. Do you honestly think I could not have killed you all if I wished to do so? Assuming you all earned your positions, you should all be capable of noticing that I am indeed a Jinchuriki. Then the fact that I did not attack you should be enough proof of my intentions. Why did Gaara have to die? Why did the other Jinchuriki die? Temari decided to speak up, and prevent the discussion from derailing anymore. The leader of Akatsuki will try to bring peace to the world. Naruto smiled a little at seeing the confusion. Then again, he did not have the same sort of coercion that Pain had. Naruto did have to hand it to the man as a true believer. Pain spoke with an energy that Naruto did not think he could ever muster again. After the bijou are collected, he will create a jutsu that can destroy entire nations. Through Pain, he will educate humanity about the folly of its ways. The horrors of war will make people desire peace, rather than continue this endless cycle of hatred. He will force the world into peace by making a continuation of war too horrible for people to bear. An entire nation? Tsunade gasped. Why, you can't be serious. You all must be aware, to some extent, how powerful a single bijou can be. Now imagine how powerful all 9 together can be. Naruto looked at the Senju. Even if they do not possess the Kyuubi yet, Akatsuki will control a power that is beyond my capacity to defeat. Not all the bijou have been stolen yet. Inoki narrowed his eyes. Han is still secure. My little brother is safe too, I groused. As is the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi, Mei agreed. Even though Utakata-san refused to return to Kiri, we did dispatch a strong enough guard to ensure his safety. Akatsuki knows the location of the Gobi Jinchuriki, Naruto shrugged. Kakuzu and I were tasked to capture it. But considering how I came to remember my old life and defected, Iwa's Jinchuriki should be secure for the time being. Only until Pain and the others move against him, though, from your words. Akatsuki is already targeting the other two? Temari scowled, hoping that she was misinterpreting Naruto's words. She was not, unfortunately. The last thing I know is that the leader, Pain, had located the Rokubi, and was about to engage him. So Kiri's Jinchuriki is already captured, and likely already moved to a secure location. Naruto held up his hand to silence the Mizukage. Pain is far more powerful than any of you. To tell the truth, even I cannot be completely sure that I can defeat him in single combat. And the Hachibi? Tsunade inquired. The Jinchuriki of the Hachibi might have defeated Sasori and Orochimaru during his first run-in with Akatsuki. Naruto shared a bit of information which I had neglected to share with the other Kage, much to their collective annoyance. But against Kisame he will lose. Especially when Haiden is at Kisame's side. Zetsu will have gathered enough information on the fighting style of the Jinchuriki to give Kisame the upper hand. I roared and wanted to leave, but Naruto stopped the man. The monster of Kirigakure, Anoki scowled. That swordsman is the nuisance who killed our previous daimyo, so Kisame has told me, Naruto agreed. Although you left out the little detail that it was your current daimyo who hired him for that job, but that is irrelevant now. What is more urgent is that all 5 villages will have to face Akatsuki, or you will be destroyed by the Jubi. So please sit down, Reikage-sama. You will not be in time to reach your Jinchuriki anyway. I will have to save B. I barked. I will. You will what? Naruto asked sharply. You don't know where they hide. You don't know their members, nor do you know their abilities. And most importantly, you do not know how they seal the bijou. You know nothing, Reikage, of the true danger the world is in. Reikage Dano, you should listen to this brat. Anoki surprised Temari and Tsunade by agreeing. Jubi, you said? Is such a thing? Is that possible? The members of Akatsuki unite their powers to seal away each bijou into a statue that is called the Gedo Mazo, Naruto clarified. Pain, the leader of Akatsuki, aims to use that statue as a weapon. He does not seem to be aware that the 9 bijou together, in that statue, will give birth to something far more horrible. How do you know that? Tsunade stammered after a few moments of stunned silence. If Akatsuki does not know this, then how do you? Naruto patted on his stomach. I told you that Kurama and I decided to cooperate because of a common threat, didn't I? We humans only live short lives, and forget about things easily, but Kurama has been around ever since the Rakudo Sannin gave him life. Brat, what are you doing? Teaching them to respect the bijou, Naruto replied. Unless you want to get sealed again after all this is over and I have died, I presume that telling these fools who you and your brethren truly are might cause them to respect you a bit more. It will fail. Humans are too greedy for our chakra to ever truly respect us. The Sage of the 6 Paths? Temari frowned. That is just a legend. Isn't it? It is not, I scowled. You should trust Kumogakure on this one, Kazekage Dano, Anoki smiled wryly. Kumo has been hoarding everything related to the founder of ninjutsu. Many of my village's artifacts have been stolen, in fact. Understanding the origins is the path to understanding. I never expected you to be this wise, Reikage-sama, Naruto chuckled, mocking the man with the honorific. But for someone so revered, his children have gotten quite a poor treatment, haven't they? Sealed away, used as weapons, all for the sake of war. All because the hidden villages are too greedy, and you wonder why the bijou act so violently whenever they manage to escape. But this is not the time to discuss the treatment of bijou, or their Jinchuriki for that matter. This is a time where you fools have to reach a decision. How strong would the 10 tails be? Brat, let me take over for a moment. You're not going to kill them, are you? No. They need to know what the threat is. Very well. I'll leave it to Kurama to explain that, Naruto sighed. His eyes changed even further, and his whisker mark deepened. Along with his prolonged fangs, he looked rather feral now. Everyone listen. And don't interrupt me with your puny little arguments. The brat might have patience with you babbling fools, but I do not, Kurama grumbled with his deep voice, temporarily in control of Naruto's body. To put it in a way that you humans can understand, the Jubi can be described as the summary of all the chakra from the 1 tail to me, the 9 tails. It is the beginning of all chakra, a god who created countries. Aim no Hitatsu no Kami, Atara, Daidarabachi, your kind has given it many names. It is an entity that swallows oceans, splits the land, carries mountains, and it is the progenitor of all that exists in this world. It is like all my brethren combined in one being, but stronger. Incomparably stronger. I alone do not stand a chance against it, but without my chakra the Jubi will not be able to be reborn. The Geto Mazo is merely a container. Only it can contain chakra as powerful as that of my brethren. And me being the strongest of them all, means that I have to be sealed last. If not, the chakra would destabilize and the sealing process would fail. But even without my chakra, the Geto Mazo is a powerful enemy, especially considering how he can simply swallow the brat in order to begin the transformation, after the first 8 have been sealed. Is there no hope? Tsunade grimaced. Are things that dire? The human who leads Akatsuki has the same eyes as the Rakudo Sennin. The Rinnegan is the one dojutsu that can control the Geto Mazo, and it is likely also capable of enabling him to control the Jubi to some extent. But the human is a fool if he thinks he can truly control the Jubi. No, I assume that the goals he spoke of to the brat, bringing peace to the world by making warfare something so destructive that you humans do not dare to continue it, is not the true goal of Akatsuki. Their leader is nothing but a puppet. What else could they want? I growled. World domination? The destruction of the hidden villages? The Jubi will not be interested in anything Akatsuki wants. It does not have feelings or ideals, and yet its power is immeasurable. The old man warned us, before his death, that the return of the Jubi would herald the end of the world. So instead of squabbling for hours over the petty grievances between your villages, why don't you ask yourselves this? Do you want this world to end? End of the world? Temari muttered. No. No, Sunage will do whatever necessary to avoid that. As Wakirgakure, Mei chimed in. Konoha will never allow the Jubi to return. Tsunade nodded vehemently. We won't allow them to take Naruto or you, Q. Kurama. Nor will Kumo allow those bastards to take B, I growled. If all you hot-headed children can come to an agreement, it would be bad for the elders to fall behind. Someone will have act as a guide to the inexperienced. By that logic you just appointed me as your leader. Thank you, tiny human, Kurama chuckled, before handing control back to Naruto. Now they know. I would advise you give them all the locations that Akatsuki uses as shelter. If they have captured Gyuki and Saiken, they will need a place to keep them during the sealing, which will take longer now that they are lacking several members. Attacking those locations might slow Akatsuki down even further, forcing them to relocate, or in a perfect turn of events offer a chance for your allies to reclaim the captured Jinchuriki. Likewise, Amigekyo will be a problem. Pain is probably someone you will have to handle personally, but if you do it alone, the other shinobi of AIM and the remaining members of Akatsuki might form a costly distraction. Having humans at your side to deal with those distractions seems to be the best option. Abija to lead us? Anoki blinked. He was joking, Naruto sighed. Who takes charge is irrelevant. I'll provide the Hokage with all the information on the Akatsuki hideouts that I know of. Each nation should be capable of composing teams to clear those hideouts, and if necessary call in reinforcements. Most of the hideouts are in the border areas or in the smaller nations, Oto no Kuni being the exception. Why would it be an exception? Tsunade frowned. Wasn't Orochimaru in charge of that nation? He was part of Akatsuki, yes, but Otogekure is completely gone. I don't think that after what I did, anyone managed to survive, Naruto shrugged. The indifference in his voice made Tsunade shudder a bit. Orochimaru and his experiments were not exactly equal to the power of a shinobi village, but still. Since I annihilated Otogekure, the most urgent situation that we have to deal with will be Amigekure. AIM? Why? Hanzo would not deal with scum like Akatsuki. Hanzo died years ago. Naruto shook his head. Pain killed Hanzo. And Hanzo's wife, his parents, his children, everyone related to Hanzo, in any way, was slaughtered. I see you realize who truly rules AIM now. Akatsuki, Tsunade grimaced. Akatsuki's leader controlled an entire nation, without anyone knowing. If any of us would have openly attacked Amigekure, Anoki mumbled, looking at Tsunade and Temari, the other two neighbors would have seen it as a provocation, and retaliated accordingly. But with Akatsuki controlling AIM, all three of us should attack together. I do not hold a grudge against AIM itself, Kage, but defeating Pain and his right-hand Konan is something that has to be done to halt Akatsuki, Naruto grumbled. As such, I will join whatever forces that will be sent out against Amigekure. Pain will be my enemy to fight, but I will need to have all distractions removed. Audacious brat, I barked. How dare you tell us how to act? Spreading our forces, attacking a smaller nation, we would leave our villages unprotected. If I may, Nara Shikaku stepped forward. Akatsuki does not seem to hold any interest in our villages, but rather in the Jinchuriki. Or the Bijou, to be more specific. If we collectively attack all the hideouts which Naruto-san is aware of, there might be a chance that we can either prevent or interrupt the sealing process, assuming that this process consumes time, and rescue the missing Jinchuriki. With 9 members, it still took us 3 days for each Bijou, Naruto nodded. And that number has gone down, so it should take even more time now. I thought Akatsuki had 10 members, Inoki frowned. Number 10 has always been a bit of a mystery, Naruto admitted. No one but Pain himself seems to be aware who the last member is. But the assessment of Nara-san is correct. What Akatsuki needs is the Bijou. I see no reason why they would risk their remaining assets by assaulting a village, especially not if it meant that it would slow down the sealing process. Unless a Jinchuriki resides in that village, Shikaku remarked. In this case, a lot of innocent people will likely be drawn into the fray, because a battle against multiple S-ranked shinobi will likely lead to large-scale destruction. I assume that this is why Naruto-san prefers to take the initiative and assault the home of Akatsuki's leader. Well, yes. I just want to destroy Pain. And if possible, I want to kill the person who put me through all that shit. Killing Zetsu is something personal, Naruto stated firmly. As for the rest, that was Kurama's plan, not mine. He's quite smart, you know, kiss ass. Don't act like it's Sundara all of a sudden, Kurama. Don't make me regret this deal. You won't. I won't stop until Pain is gone. And Zetsu, that accursed vegetable, will suffer for what he did to Aji-chan, Naruto thought grimly. Good, can we all agree on these terms? You should not have done such a thing, Tsunade scowled. If I had not done it, there would have been a lot of pointless interference. Yes, but it would have been counterproductive if I had wasted time by slaughtering a bunch of Umbu and Jonin, right in front of their Kage, Naruto shrugged. So I put them all to sleep. Hell, in the center of a forest filled with poisonous plants, I could have easily done a lot worse. You have changed, brat. We can't all pretend to be young and unchanging forever, Bachan, Naruto smiled wryly. Too much has happened for me to be like I once was. Naruto looked around. They were sitting in Tsunade's office, just the two of them. Tsunade had thanked Ino as soon as there was no one else around, although she did say that she couldn't thank Ino openly, as she had officially gone against orders. Tsunade would find a way to reward the Yamanaka girl. For now, Shizen had taken up the task to clear Ino's records of her insubordination. Similarly, Swayon was freed. And in spite of her status as Amigekyo Kunoichi, she was granted the right to join the Konoha forces, on the condition that she would aid Shikaku by providing all the information she had on Amigekyo. Tsunade had also ordered Shikaku to make sure that Swayon, now promoted from prisoner to valuable asset, would remain secure. Hence, only the two blondes were left in the office, where Tsunade was starting to get a headache as they were discussing how to announce Naruto's return, as well as sharing the news that they were at war with Akatsuki and Amigekyo. Naruto? What? Sorry, I kinda got lost in thought, Naruto laughed sheepishly. Although his laugh did not reach the eyes. Those somber and empty eyes, they made Tsunade worry. It was as if nothing he did or said ever truly came from his heart. That was a hollow state of existence that she herself knew all too well. It is strange to be back so soon after remembering who I was. Everything seems smaller. Everyone suddenly appears to be so fragile. It is because you have become strong, Tsunade chuckled, trying to put her worries aside and putting up a brave face. And taller too. Now I don't have to feel bothered when I offer you a glass of this. She pulled out a bottle of her favorite sake from the drawer of her office. Unless you don't want to? I guess it wouldn't hurt. Although I fear I might never stop. Naruto's mirth vanished quickly. Oh well, thanks to Kurama, I guess I won't get drunk quickly anyway. Tsunade poured him a glass, which he downed before she could even raise her own glass. It made her frown, and shoved the bottle towards him. If he could drink like that, he should fill his own glass as well. I thought you disliked alcohol, because I never knew why you drowned yourself in it. I was young and ignorant back then. But I found, he mumbled, then lifting his left hand, showing her the ring that belonged to Ajisai. And then lost, so yes, I got to understand how you feel, Bachan. And it is ugly enough to make a person change. Kid, what happened? Team 7 was ambushed by Kakuzu, the guy that I killed a few days ago. I woke up some time after that, and Zetsu asked me if I was Tobi or Naruto. Apparently, half my body had been destroyed. Tobi was a being similar to Zetsu, and Toby merged with my body. I think their plan was to let Toby control my body, so that they would have Kurama under their control. They almost succeeded, but they hadn't planned things out well enough. When Tsunade created the seal, he left a portion of his and Ka-san's chakra behind so that they would be able to see me again. Minato saved you, didn't he? Tsunade guessed. He always had a habit of arriving just in the nick of time. In the struggle to gain control over my body, Kurama had torn out a part of my soul. Tsunade stabilized that part, ensuring the survival of my memories. Somehow he stopped Toby from gaining dominance. Or perhaps he killed Toby's psyche, I do not know. Fact is that I woke up without any memories. Zetsu and Kakuza taught me to be a shinobi, taught me how to deal with the ability that I had gained. Zetsu had records left by Uchiha Madara, describing the Mokuton Kekkei Genkai from the Shodai Hokage down to the smallest details, while Kakuza had once fought Hashirama. The two of them had some knowledge, but in truth, I learned to wield the wood element from nature itself. Well, and from Aji-chan. Aji-chan? Ajisai. After Kakuza and I captured Yagura, the Yondaime Mizukage, I was sent to Amigakure for training. Ajisai was the girl who was assigned as my attendant. After all, I was not an inhabitant of AIM, so Pain did not fully trust me. Don't ask me why, but the people of AIM revere Pain as Kami-sama. Somewhere along the line, Ajisai started to see me as some kind of demigod. She thought I was as powerful as Pain himself, but still human. Naruto smiled sadly. It was the first honest emotion Tsunade saw in him. Her admiration turned into something else. And I never noticed. I mean, Zetsu and Kakuza aren't exactly good teachers, so I was practically ignorant when it came to emotions. That was also my weakness when it came to Mokuton. How do you mean? Mokuton is not just a mixture of Suiton and Doton, nor is it just a form of Senjutsu. It is something also depending on the yang energy of a person. In other words, it needs a chakra that is full of life. What is the one thing that makes you feel more alive than anything else? Naruto chuckled, although the empty look in his eyes made Tsunade cringe. Love. Ajisai introduced me to the subject. Before I left Amigakure, as Kakuzu and I were tasked to capture the Nanabai, Ajisai and I got engaged. Or claimed, as she called it. AIM habits differ a bit from those in Konoha. I don't know whether it is the best decision I ever made, or the worst. Because of me, she ended up getting killed by Zetsu. They say that the pain is in proportion to the love you feel for those you lost, and anger is connected to that pain, Naruto scowled. That is why I said I will kill Zetsu. Defeating pain is essential, as he is the strongest member of Akatsuki, but Zetsu is something personal. Do not let yourself be consumed by anger, kid, Tsunade warned. Anger, self-loathing, sorrow, all these feelings, they are enough to reduce any person to a pathetic mess. If we die, we'll meet them again, Naruto smiled weakly. What alarmed Tsunade most was that this smile was actually sincere. Don't fret, Ka-sen already talked me out of my suicidal thoughts, Naruto chuckled. I still have a few things that I have to do before I can face Aji-chan. Tsunade found herself agreeing with this. My little brother dreamt of becoming Hokage, just like our grandfather and his brother. Dan wanted to become Hokage to change the village, to prevent all those unnecessary casualties, like his sister and my brother, and now I am living their dream. I thought I was living your dream too, but fortunately you're still alive. I don't think it is still my dream though, Bachan, Naruto sighed. The old me wanted it. He wanted it so badly. To be accepted. To be acknowledged. To make people stop looking at him like he was some kind of criminal. To be worthy of the trust the Yamanaka family put in him. To be Ino's, but that Naruto died. Not when Kakuzu destroyed his body, or when Tobi invaded his flesh, but rather when Ajisai died. I wanted to give her a world devoid of war and conflict. A world of peace. That, Bachan, is my dream now. So that when I pass on, and finally see Aji-chan again, I can tell her that I kept my promise and changed the world for her. Couldn't you do that as Hokage? Tsunade tried. Considering how powerful you are right now, you could do the same thing that my grandfather did, and create peace simply by being too strong to be attacked. Tell me, is Konoha innocent? What? Is the village innocent? Naruto repeated. Is Konoha not guilty of any of the past wars? Did it not create innocent victims? Did it never act out of a selfish pursuit for power? If you can tell me that, I will believe in Konoha again. But right now, I see a village which would rather defend its own people than think about those on the other side of the border. I see a village which created plenty of criminals, or simple, poor souls that attempted to flee the system and therefore were branded as traitors. Do you have any idea how many of those Persads were hunted down by Kakuzu and me? And if I truly create peace, Bachan, wouldn't that ruin Konoha? A village which depends on people buying their soldiers would not have much income when those soldiers aren't needed anymore. Konoha needs conflicts. You'd become an enemy of many people within Konoha, Tsunade admitted. Yet there are many more that would rather see you succeed in bringing peace. Those who hold power will struggle when they lose it, but ultimately their sacrifice will be for the greater good. Tell that to them, Naruto nodded at the door. Not 5 seconds after he did so, 3 elders entered Tsunade's office, without any appointment and worse, without knocking. Trespassing in the office of the Hokage's treason, isn't it? He smirked, making Tsunade laugh when 2 of the 3 froze up. So it is true. The Jinchuriki has returned from the death, the one-eyed elder remarked, wearing bandages as if he recently had received some major hit to the head. Oh my, how did you get such an interesting arm? Naruto mumbled. Sensei, I see you succeeded in spite of everything? Kunemori betraying Akatsuki was quite unexpected. Mokuton or not, to be able to kill both Kakuzu and my old friend, it is impressive. I would not have sent you to capture the Gobi if I had any other choice. I know, Nagato. His treason forced your hand. The Gobi Jinchuriki didn't pose much of a problem, though. But I wonder if what Kunemori did was also part of Zetsu's plan. It was not part of Zetsu's plan. What the Yamanaka girl did was quite unexpected, Nagato lied. The pain of loss drove her far enough to twist the minds of others, and now Konoha believes her lies. The world will descend upon us, with a furious wrath. The hidden villages will never tolerate us bringing peace to the world. Hiding behind a false symbol of hope, they aim to keep the world as it is, a world that destroys and consumes people, cities built on skulls, paths paved with broken dreams. That is how they wish to keep it. But what if it is true, Nagato? Do you still delude yourself with hope, Jiraiya-sensei? Nagato sighed. Even after you have asked the toads? Uzumaki Naruto is no longer an active summoner. If he had survived, as the delusional Yamanaka girl claims, the toads would have known. Chapter 14, Treason. Oh my, how did you get such an interesting arm? Naruto mumbled. That man felt odd while I noticed him approaching the office, but up close it is like he covered his right arm in some sort of genjutsu. Peculiar. It is almost as if his arm is made out of the same stuff that Zetsu is made of. And what are those dots underneath those locks? Be careful in front of this man. You should be able to sense the negative emotions he radiates. I know. I'll probably have to deal with this bastard before this war commences. Or one of the other idiots. Danzo? Tsunade frowned, wondering why the older man suddenly looked like that. He was usually overly calm and collected, to the point that Tsunade compared him to a corpse. Seeing him angered was something Tsunade had not expected, especially not over a seemingly simple remark like that. Don't worry, Bachan, Naruto smirked at the old man. I bet he'll be a very useful asset in our war against Akatsuki. Brat, what are you doing? Calm down, Kurama. He'll attack me of his own volition. It'll be either him, or IWA that will be made an example, or perhaps someone else who would be smart enough to think that killing us would at least stall Akatsuki for the time being. That blockhead from Kumo might try it too, though I highly doubt he's able to worry about anything but his brother at this point. Why would you specify IWA? It seemed like that woman from Kirigakure was more intent on murdering you. IWA will want me dead because I'm the son of the Yondaime Hokage. Their grudge goes far deeper than the Mizuki's. I especially said that to test their response. I'd rather go into war knowing who my enemies are, Kurama. I traveled through Tsuchi no Kuni with Kakuzu, and the hatred they have against my father is still as strong as ever. But if we give them a strong enough example, they won't attack when it's the wrong time for me. I don't like how you gamble. What, are you afraid of one old man who has an arm that is partially Mokuton? All we need to do is to dispose of one party to scare the others enough that they fall back in line. It's just a matter of flushing out the enemies that might backstab us in the near future. Or do you want to let them wait until pain weakens us? A war against Akatsuki? Koharu glared at Tsunade. What is this? Tsunade shortly explained the situation to the elders of the council. Danzo didn't officially belong to that council, but usually came with Koharu and Hamura anyway. Having the backing of some of Konoha's clans, he was difficult to remove as well. Of course, Tsunade would have retained more power if she hadn't struggled with her depression so much. The Jubi, Danzo scowled. The problems involving Akatsuki are piling up. To think it would be a threat grave enough to unite the 5 nations. It is good to see that we have our Jinchuriki back, in these dark times, Hamura nodded. I am not your Jinchuriki. I am no one's tool, old man, Naruto warned. I'll fight alongside my old home, I'll listen to what Bachan has to say, but beyond that I will not be one of Konoha's pawns. I refuse to become a tool again. That is treason. Koharu narrowed her eyes. Whether you want it or not, you are Konoha's Jinchuriki. But perhaps your mental health needs to be examined first. Are you intending to force me to listen? Naruto chuckled humorlessly. Please try it, old crone. Attack me, and I'll feed your intestines to the dogs of the Inuzuka clan. Oh, and stop attempting that genjutsu against me, Danzo-san. It only pisses off Kurama, and I'm inclined to agree with him. I won't execute you old farts in this office, but you are all welcome to try to engage me. If you think you are stronger than Orochimaru or Kakuzu. With that, Naruto left the office. Tsunade wanted to stop him, and called out to him, but it was futile. Following him was no option either, considering the seething elders which were also present. Damn it, brat, the first day you're back and you're already causing a ruckus. The now former sake addict scowled at the realization that she'd have to deal with this riled-up trio of elders. With a faint smile, the girl looked at the closed doors. She had defied a direct order, brought back the boy she loved, and gotten away without punishment. In fact, Tsunade had even promised her to remove all charges of insubordination, or at least, Shizen would do that the paperwork. Ino sighed as she had to wait. She knew Tsunade wanted, and needed, to speak to Naruto in private, but still. Ino wouldn't be Ino if she wasn't terribly curious and scared. The things that Naruto said. I don't think Tsunade-sama will like it much, she mumbled to herself. He had basically told Ino that he didn't want to join Konoha's ranks anymore. He refused to become anyone's tool ever again. But that was basically what a shinobi was to his or her village, a tool, a person executing the missions assigned by the leader of the village. If he would refuse to obey that fundamental rule, what kind of shinobi would he be? Seeing the three elders enter the office, even though they did not have any invitation, and Danzo wasn't formally an elder of the council, only made her turmoil grow. The steady increase of chakra she felt. Naruto-kun has truly become monstrously strong. I knew he had more chakra than anyone else. But right now it is just preposterous. Even Tsunade-sama wouldn't stand a chance, and she's basically the strongest person I know. Ino scowled at the idea that Naruto thought he had to engage Akatsuki's leader personally, as if that man were as strong as Naruto was. But Naruto-kun is a Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Unless that thing about the Jubi is true, how would anyone be capable of matching Naruto's power now that he cooperates with the Kyuubi? The doors opened with a loud clang, and Naruto appeared in her line of sight of visibly annoyed Naruto. Silent, she was glad she could still read his expressions as well as before. Naruto-kun? Oh, you were still waiting? Naruto blinked, as if he had not noticed her up to that point. Truthfully, he had forgotten, being too caught up in the annoyance the elders had caused. Bachan said you had to go home, if I recall correctly? What more do I need to do to make it clear to you that I don't do everything she tells me to do? Ino huffed, her hands placed on her hips. Now let's go home together. Together? Your old apartment was bought by someone else, and most of your stuff is gone, Ino sighed. You know, because we all thought you died. But we still have a guest room, so you'll stay with us. I get the feeling it still doesn't matter what I say, Naruto said with a deadpan expression. I can create buildings myself, you know, so I'm never without a roof over my head. A roof is not a home, Ino countered. You're going home, Naruto-kun. She grabbed his wrist, dragging him along. On their way out, Naruto noticed several unusual Anbu. They felt oddly empty, as if missing something fundamental. They lack negative emotions. They lack what? Now that you have so much of my chakra flowing through you, you share a gift that I possess, Kurama explained with surprising patience. That gift is the ability to sense the negative emotions in others. Hatred, despair, murderous intent, greed, the list goes on and on with you humans. You'll get better at distinguishing it in time, but they lack those feelings? Isn't that a good thing? Every human has such emotions in some degree. Not having those emotions is a sign that someone messed with their heads. I know that some clans had a practice of training children to become mindless murderers. No regret, no hope, no ideals, just tools. In Konoha? Naruto frowned. Must be a whole group of them, considering how they are following us. It would be nearly impossible for an outside force to infiltrate Anbu ranks to such a degree. So, an inside job? A clandestine unit, perhaps? I do not know. But be careful. You might now want to drag the bossy girl into this. Your new mate? No, Kurama, she's not my mate. The girl I loved was murdered by Zetsu. Ino is a remnant? An attachment my old self had, quite similar to what my new self felt for Aji-chan. Only less intense, I suppose. I was much younger back then. We didn't go that far at 12 or 13. Not like with Aji-chan. Besides, Aji-chan had something no one else has. In love with a dead girl? How futile. But it explains why you feel so conflicted. Why should I stop loving someone because she died? I will see her again, once I am dead as well. That day, we will both be free, Kurama. Yes, that afterlife thing you mortals have, but recall that I can't die. It must be painful. Naruto felt oddly sad for the Kyuubi. You cannot die. You can never meet those you care about ever again? Why are you assuming that there would be people that I care about? But what if it is true, Nagato? Do you still delude yourself with hope, Jiraiya-sensei? Nagato sighed. Even after you have asked the toads? Uzumaki Naruto is no longer an active summoner. If he had survived as the delusional Yamanaka girl claims, the toads would have known. That is true, but if his name is marked as deceased in that summoning scroll, how could this new boy truly be Uzumaki Naruto? Nagato frowned a little as he looked down upon his old sensei. Konin used to be the only one who saw his true body, rather than seeing one of the paths of pain. But Jiraiya had quickly enough discovered that it wasn't Yahiko who had taken Nagato's eyes, but rather Nagato who had taken Yahiko's body. At that point, Nagato had to make a choice between disposing of the man, or showing him the truth. He had chosen the latter. It was strange how things had gone. Jiraiya had been a man who had lost all hope, who had turned into a wanderer without any real affiliations. At some point he had run into Konin, purely by chance, when she had gone out of Amigekyo for a mission. After that short meeting, where she basically had fled from him before he had truly realized who she had been, Jiraiya had stubbornly persisted in trying to find his old student. He had believed her to be the only one left. To Jiraiya, she was the last person he could find it in himself to care about. For years, he had protected Konoha from the shadows. He had eliminated several threats, uncovered plots before they could be set in motion, and most of all, he had kept the existence of his godson hidden from the prying eyes of the other nations. As the son of the Yondaime Hokage, Jinchuriki of the most powerful of the 9 Bijou, Naruto's mere existence would have been reason enough to start conflicts that could escalate into a full-blown world war. What had been Jiraiya's reward? How was he repaid for his efforts? The poor boy had been slaughtered along with his team, ambushed during a mission that sounded unusual from the get-go. To make things worse, the woman that he had foolishly loved his entire life, even if she had never reciprocated his feelings, had blamed him for Naruto's demise. Jiraiya wasn't quickly angered, but that particular argument had escalated into something that couldn't ever be repaired. Only later did he realize that the woman he had once cared for had already been gone for years. Part of her had died with her brother, another part had died with her lover. The Tsunade he knew today was only the husk of the woman he'd once fallen for. Nagato had decided to trust Jiraiya because the man knew pain. He trusted him because Jiraiya truly wished for a world where people wouldn't suffer for any dumb reason. He desired a world without war, where children would not be turned into Jinchuriki, be hated and despised, and not even grieved after their deaths. He sought a world without death, so that people wouldn't end up becoming the broken-hearted shells of their former selves. He yearned for a world where teachers could see their students grow to surpass them, and to happily die at old age, knowing that his students would still be around to carry on his legacy. The man without hope or goals had found pain, and pain had shown him a way to a future where people would not suffer as they did now. Jiraiya would never have accepted such a plan, would never have condoned such a slaughter, and yet, for a world where people would not go to war, a world that wouldn't suffer as we suffer, that is why I joined you, Nagato, Jiraiya sighed. It is better to sacrifice thousands, so that we can rescue millions. That is why I captured the Gobi Jinchuriki, and aided you in locating the Rokubi. And yet, if this boy truly is him, I don't know if I can attack him. Jiraiya didn't know the truth. Tsunade had sent him a report that Yamanaka Ino had found Naruto a blonde boy with the Mokuton Kekkei Genkai, who possessed strength beyond anything she had ever seen since her own grandfather. She wrote that the Kekkei Genkai made it impossible to sense the chakra of the Kyuubi, but that they had spoken with it. It was cheap tricks, Konin had told him. The boy is dead, the toads mourned. It was the delusions of a heartbroken young girl and an old drunkard, Nagato said. Even in front of the 5 Kage, it wouldn't be impossible to deceive everyone, especially not when Kunemori was as skilled as rumored. Imitating voices, changing appearances, even Jiraiya would be able to fool them if he wished to. And yet, the doubt kept gnawing at his conscience. The boy who now resided in Konoha acted somewhat differently from the Naruto he knew. The Kyuubi could not be sensed, but what if, I see. You wish to return to Konoha, Nagato frowned. He and Zetsu had arranged that the man would get the information necessary to let him remain loyal. Why did the man still act so stubbornly? All facts pointed at another direction, yet he stubbornly kept looking the other way. Why? You wish to see for yourself whether the boy truly is Naruto or not. Is your resolve so fragile, sensei? I thought you joined us because you wished to create a world where people wouldn't suffer like those you cared about. Why are you so eager to believe the obvious lies of that Yamanaka girl? I know, but still, if Naruto survived, I have to meet him, Jiraiya scowled. If Nagato had not already been aware that the old man had been broken, he would have seen it now. Jiraiya, no matter his skill or reputation, was simply a man who craved for family, for love. It was a distraction. A black rod shot from the construction in which Nagato's body rested. The rod hit Jiraiya before the older man even realized what had happened. I thought you were a more valuable asset while you were loyal to us out of your own volition, but if I have to force you to follow my ideals, then so be it. And Nagato, what is this? Hush, sensei. You wanted peace. Abandon your foolish desire, and allow me to guide you. Nagato glared at the older man. Jiraiya's attempts to resist the chakra rods were futile. Perhaps if he had been in sage mode already, that might have given him a chance to resist Nagato's subjugating chakra. Now, the Uzumaki Naruto that resides in Konoha is a fake. It is all a ruse, created by that desperate Yamanaka girl. You will serve Akatsuki, and ignore the lies. The Uzumaki Naruto in Konoha is a fake, Jiraiya repeated with a voice devoid of any emotion, the invading chakra exploiting the man's doubts and overriding the part of his free will that led him to wanting to return to Konoha. Nagato did not require more rods, as Jiraiya's body did not need to be controlled, nor did he wish Jiraiya to wield the power of the Rinnegan. No, this one rod was enough to shatter the doubts in the man's mind. All he needed was a nudge. It wasn't necessary for Nagato to completely control the man's body and soul. I will serve Akatsuki, the older man confirmed. Unseen by both men, Konan stood just outside the room where Nagato resided. Her face contorted in a sad and pained grimace, tears blinking in her eyes. Nagato, why do you resort to violence and treachery when we are striving for a world of peace? How far are you willing to plunge yourself into this darkness? This is not what Yahiko gave his life for. This is not what Yahiko would have wanted. The Jinchuriki were an unfortunate, but necessary sacrifice for their goals. The corrupt villages needed to be put to a halt, and Konan understood that this too would cause many casualties. But this wasn't what she wanted. This wasn't what Akatsuki was supposed to be. What Nagato did with Ajisai's corpse, what Nagato now did to Jiraiya, their sensei, it was difficult enough to cooperate with deranged people like Orochimaru and Haiden, but to see her oldest and only remaining friend resort to this was painful. She sighed and walked away. She couldn't afford to show her doubt now. Nagato was already on edge. They were close, so very close. Jiraiya had brought them the gobi, and Kisame was on his way back with the Hachibi. Although Haiden had somehow been killed, or permanently incapacitated, Konan knew that the religious fanatic couldn't be killed, not by the common definition of the word at least. First there would be the gobi and the nanabai, having the lower amount of tails, and then they would seal the Hachibi. After those were sealed, it would be time to hunt down the Kyuubi. However, it would take much more time to seal the Bijou with only 5 remaining members. There was no room for doubts, and yet Konan couldn't get them out of her head. Why you're choking me, Naruto gasped. Air. Please. Can't breathe. He sucked in the fresh air when she released him from her hold, overjoyed, in complete and utter disbelief, and crying out of sheer joy. That was how Naruto would describe Yamanaka Yuriko at this point. Her daughter, Ino, watched the scene with a bemused smile. Look at you. You've become so tall. You've become a real man now. You're alive. Yamanaka Inoichi patted his wife on her back, attempting to comfort her a little, while looking at Naruto. He was at least as stunned as she was, although he managed to keep his composure. You survived. Yeah, I did, Naruto lied through his teeth, keeping up his smile. He didn't want to give poor Yuriko a second heart attack by telling her how his life during the past years had been. I'm sorry for worrying you all this much, he added sheepishly. I only recovered my memories recently. I see, Inoichi gave him a look, as if the man saw that Naruto was deeply troubled. It was no real surprise, considering his profession, but still, It somewhat annoyed Naruto that the man had so easily seen through his facade. And what will you do now? Fight at Konoha's side in the upcoming war? Naruto shrugged, deliberately not stating that he'd fight for Konoha. After that, I'm not sure. War? Both adult Yamanakas frowned, and Noichi especially, at Naruto's choice of words. Bachan will explain it soon. Akatsuki is after the Bijou, and they've seized control of Amagekure as well. The 5 villages will cooperate to eliminate the threat. Naruto-kun, do you really want to go to war? Ino hesitated. She didn't like seeing how he had changed. More stress might make him even worse. I'll have to. Naruto looked at her, somewhat confused by the question. Who else is going to take down Akatsuki's leader? He looked around, and sighed. This is a mistake. I shouldn't be here. I should. Stop hesitating, Ino cut him off. I told you that first. I'm going to show you the garden. Dad, you have to see this. Naruto surrendered with a sigh, and turned to walk towards the flower beds behind the house. The 2 stupefied Yamanaka followed after sharing a look. Inoichi had felt the power which Naruto radiated, but also had seen the pain in the boy's eyes. Ino more or less dragged Naruto on, and put him in front of the garden, giving him an expectant look. What? Well, grow it. Ino frowned as if it had been obvious what she wanted from him. Show them what you can do. I'm not some kind of circus animal, Naruto grumbled. But fine. With one hand to the ground, his eyes closed, the Uzumaki concentrated for a moment. Inoichi noticed how his chakra spread, but at first did not realize what was going on. Until Yuriko pointed at the suddenly budding flowers. Plants grew in a matter of seconds, all due to Naruto. Even the dead tree in the back of the garden. Mokuton, Inoichi whispered. That is impossible. It shouldn't be possible. And yet, he blinked a few times, while also disrupting his own chakra flow in order to check that he wasn't caught by genjutsu. This is unbelievable, I suppose. I've grown used to it by now. Naruto still had that guarded look. He didn't doubt that Ino was already making plans to make a huge profit out of this, as his skills would turn their flower shop into a gold mine. Perhaps it was the Ryo signs in her eyes that gave her away? Inoichi-san, I know things are different from 3 years ago. I know that I am different, at least. But do you still trust me? I do, he replied after a short pause. Then take your family inside, and don't let them come out of the house. No matter what happens, stay inside, Naruto said calmly. Don't just stand there, move. Not understanding what was going on, Ino looked at her father, who was suddenly looking at the trees surrounding their garden. Do as he says, Ino, you too, Yuriko. Inoichi fell back on deeply ingrained habits. Ambush. Naruto would confront them, and he left it to Inoichi to ensure that Ino and Yuriko remained safe and sound. He'd cover their retreat. But why here? Why now? And who would do this? Get out and show yourselves, you idiots, Naruto snapped. Hiding amidst the trees. Do you really think that I would not notice the lot of you? Pathetic. You are better than expected, the apparent leader of the masked shinobi droned. Naruto turned around and started to walk, without a worry in the world. The masked Anbu all exchanged looks, wondering if their opponent had lost his mind. Their masks, all bearing some kind of demonic portrait, did not allow them to see each other's expressions, but well, they didn't have much emotions to show anyway. When Naruto suddenly moved, they were all forced to follow. He moved some distance away, to a small clearing attached to a home that had been abandoned long before Naruto left. The kind old man that lived there had died several years before Naruto's unwilling defection, but Naruto still remembered how the Yamanaka had offered him and Ino cookies whenever they helped him out by doing small errands. Naruto smiled fondly at the somewhat dilapidated house, before bracing himself for the inevitable. Konoha Anbu, here with the intent to harm me. I see you were smart enough to all follow me. Rather than try something foolish against the Yamanaka, Naruto didn't even look at his assailants. He didn't need to. Tell me, whom do you serve? Our names and allegiances do not matter, the same masked man replied. His mask had 6 eyes, and a painted mouth filled with animalistic teeth. Yours, however, do. Ah, so you are here to see whose tool I am, Naruto chuckled. I'd suggest you go back to your masters, and tell them that I have no allegiances left. My one and only goal is to create a world of peace, an idealist. How disappointing. Konoha has suffered enough due to idealists who wish for peace. If you are insulting the old man, I suggest you scram. For someone who wishes peace, you are awfully aggressive, a younger Anbu spoke up. Peace would require us to trust people who have repeatedly proven that they cannot be trusted. Peace requires power, power to force the others into submission. Yet you think you can just create peace, all by yourself? For someone who foolish enough to strive for such an impossibility, you should. What Naruto should do was something he would never say. A tree branch broke through the boy's back, piercing through his broken ribs and shattering his spine, in an explosion of blood. With a hard expression in his eyes, Naruto moved his hands through a flurry of hand seals. He didn't even utter the name of the first jutsu, which in part might explain why the surviving Umbu responded too late. By that time, the second jutsu was already budding. Mokuton, Kajukai Korin, Naruto almost whispered. The trees grew flowers, and the flowers covered the area in pollen which rendered the Umbu unconscious. Well, except for two fools who thought that they could rush at Naruto. Naruto didn't know why these people were underestimating him so much. Well, it might also be me. I've only fought against monsters lately. Yagura, Orochimaru, Kakuzu, those guys were at a completely different level. Perhaps I've simply become too strong for a bunch of run-of-the-mill Umbu. Oh well, let's take the live ones to Noichi. Looking at his left, Naruto smiled. They were truly idiots. Did they honestly think he wouldn't have noticed the backup who had been spying at the fight from a distance? Already tagged with a seed. After I drop those fools at Inoichi's, I'll take care of that mess. Why won't I be surprised if it leads me to Danzo? Those levels of chakra. Kuratsuchi grit her teeth in anger. Gramps, you should wait. I know, Inoki glared at his granddaughter. And remember who you are talking to. Yeah, I'm sorry Tsuchikage-sama, she rolled her eyes. But that guy is insane. If we can feel him from here, I don't even want to think how strong he is when fighting him up close. He truly is his father's son, Inoki sighed. That bastard of a Namikaze was a horror on the battlefield as well, although for different reasons. While he had his inhuman speed, his offspring has this power. The combination of Mokuton and Abija's chakra, it is preposterous. We should count ourselves lucky that he defected from Akatsuki. Perhaps, but once this war ends, he'll be a major threat, that is for sure. Then again, if the leader of Akatsuki is as strong as is said, it might lead to situations where this Uzumaki Naruto is weakened enough for us to take down. Inoki looked up at his granddaughter. Remember that a Kage carries the weight of an entire village. If a Kage strikes, he or she should strike at the exact right moment, or risk that the backlash will harm the village as well. Don't let yourself be distracted by foolish pride. Yes, Gramps, Kuratsuchi, Tsuchikage-sama, she sighed. Seriously, why the formality? We're residing in an enemy village. My every action reflects on our village. Every weakness I show is one that other villages will attempt to exploit. Always be mindful of the perception others have of you, Kuratsuchi. It is why I still can't step down. You youngsters would only make a mess out of things. Like that Kazekage girl. The old Tsuchikage paused when someone knocked at the door. It annoyed him. The hotel at which they were staying had promised them privacy. But someone had the audacity to open the door and limp into the room, a cane tapping on the ground with every other step. Tsunade jumped down, hard enough for her feet to leave imprints on the stone soil. What is going on? She demanded. Didn't Ino inform you? Yes, she did. The Senju scowled at the seemingly peaceful Naruto. He just sat there, meditating. What is going on? He pointed. There. It is a hidden latch which opens the way to an underground base. I've sent my Miura to eradicate this clandestine hideout. Naruto looked at her, talking calmly as if he was discussing something as ordinary as the weather, rather than 5 murderous wooden demons who were massacring an entire Umbu division as they spoke. While useful, the drawback of these constructs was that they attacked indiscriminately, murdering everyone except the one who created them. As such, Naruto could only use them when the conditions were right, or he would risk hurting his allies. Danzo holding up his men in an underground facility basically provided Naruto with an easy way to wipe them all out. I've used my Mokuton to cut off any escape route these tunnel rats have. In essence, I'm hurting them, leading them towards my automatons. I don't think they ever expected this happening to them, because it's a complete massacre. A hidden base like this in Konoha? Tsunade frowned. How? Inoichi is approaching. Naruto pointed in the direction behind her. Perhaps he found something in the minds of those that attacked me earlier. It turned out that he did. It took him several tries, as their minds had been protected extremely well. Every time he made a mistake, Inoichi had triggered a suicide switch, and instantly lost the one whose mind he tried to invade. But with some trial and error, as well as a dose of luck, he managed to get some information out of the last captive. Danzo, he grunted. Shizen! Tsunade barked. Her right hand instantly appeared. Send out the Umbu. Shimara Danzo is to be brought to me. Right here, right now. Yes, Tsunade-sama, the raven-haired young woman bowed. I should have planted a seed on him, in order to keep track of him, Naruto frowned. I knew that after the way I introduced myself, either IWA or elements within Konoha would attack me. I am too valuable a piece in the game to be ignored, after all. Some genius would get the idea that Akatsuki is best hindered by killing the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, but Danzo isn't even in his own hideout. Instead, this place was rigged with more traps than I could count. I even lost 2 of my Myo thanks to that. Hell, if I had gone in myself I could have actually lost a limb or 2. What could he be planning? That old warmonger is always planning something, Tsunade spat. Hiding an entire division, one that was supposedly closed down under the Sandame's rule, is testament to that. Warmonger? Naruto blinked. Yeah, he's always blabbering about Konoha needing to be the dominant force in the world, how peace can only be achieved if the 5 nations are united under one rule. What are you doing? Tsunade wondered, confused why Naruto suddenly jumped up. Making sure our newly established alliance isn't flushed down the drain. He took off, leaving the Umbu and Jonin that had arrived to back up Tsunade in the dust. Even the Hokage had to strain herself to keep up with the young Mokuton user. It actually made sense, now that she considered it. While there were plenty of techniques to refine and improve speed, a shinobi needed, in its most basic form, chakra to enhance their movements. So the more chakra one had, the faster one would be able to move. Even as someone who was trained as a ninjutsu specialist rather than a close combat specialist, Naruto had access to more chakra than any other person Tsunade knew. Sure, he had admitted it himself that the Reikage was faster. Tsunade also expected that people like Madogai were superior in terms of speed, but Naruto would likely have his own methods of dealing with such people, not to mention that he is a Jinchuriki. Using their Bija's chakra, a Jinchuriki usually is able to bump up their speed another notch or 2, the Senju considered. Just as suddenly as he had taken off, he suddenly halted as well. In a fraction of a second, Tsunade realized why. The entire side of the building in front of them had been blown to bits. Corpses were scattered around, both of IWA and of the traitorous Root Umbu division. In the midst of that chaos, 3 figures stood. One, old and tiny, was poised half a step in front of a worn-down young woman, while the last of the 3 was none other than Danzo. Danzo had more than just one eye, it seemed. Danzo. What the hell are you doing? Tsunade barked. Have you completely lost it? The old man scowled deeply. Both old men did, actually. Inoki was on guard, not sure what Naruto and Tsunade would do. The man was sweating, nearing the point of exhaustion, while his granddaughter had fallen on her knees, being in a far worse condition. The entire area was in a state of chaos, the result of various devastating jutsu being cast. Danzo looked at Tsunade with unveiled contempt. I am doing what you should have done from the start, the elimination of those who support Akatsuki. This foolish alliance will only bring ruin to Konoha. IWA has used the services of Akatsuki before, and will undoubtedly be thrilled to let Akatsuki wear us down for them. If you had not spent your time being inebriated, you would have known that IWA would only agree with this fool's errand in order to eliminate us. Not everyone acts and thinks like you do, Danzo. Tsunade cracked her knuckles. You have committed treason against Konohagakure. Your life is forfeit. It is but a small price to pay for the sake of the village, Danzo smiled wryly. Although it is unfortunate that my men were incapable of bringing down the Jinchuriki, even after all the effort I put into creating such a perfect trap. Your hideout was indeed offering you a perfect chance at trapping me, Naruto spoke up for the first time since his arrival. But you should have considered that I would be capable of sending out my constructs. Did you honestly think that I would enter the facility without scanning it first? I'm not the impetuous and naive kid I once was. Your plans were too crude, too hasty. That is why you have failed. What do you know, you disloyal brat, Danzo scoffed. Iwa's betrayal was inevitable. Either eliminating their strongest, or subjugating him to our will, that was the best course of action. Yes, and that had all gone sour as well. Koto Amatsukami had barely been cast when that foolish granddaughter had jumped into the fray. Jumping to her defense, as well as breaking Danzo's concentration, Inoki had instinctively attacked Danzo. The genjutsu had only partly worked, confusing the old Tsuchikage, but that vexing girl had prevented Danzo from exploiting any of the opportunities which Inoki had given him. Too many Sharingan had been wasted. Just when he had them right where he wanted, the accursed brat and Tsunade showed up. Danzo already knew that the Umbu and several Jonin were closing in, and had covertly signaled what little remained of his operatives to stall those reinforcements. There was still a tiny chance for things to work out. Inoki, kill the Namikaze, Danzo calmly ordered the Tsuchikage to do his bidding. Knowing that the old man had a desire to kill the boy, Danzo estimated that he had just enough hold over him to be able to pull it off. And with his Jinton, dust release, Inoki was one of the few who would be able to penetrate the Uzumaki boy's defenses. How about not doing such a thing? Naruto sighed, almost sounding bored. Tentacles of wood burst from the ground, restraining the last 3 players of this strange dance. Tsunade moved forward, ordering Naruto not to hurt the IWA Nin, but Naruto just shrugged it off. He couldn't afford to look away from the reappearing Danzo. Those thorns pierced your flesh, Naruto mumbled. How did you disappear and reappear unharmed? Danzo didn't answer, but the furious look in his eyes was telling. He had just been forced to waste yet another Sharingan by using his Inagi to escape death. Futon, Shinku Taijioku, Wind Release, Vacuum Great Sphere, he growled, compressing the entirety of the previously inhaled breath into a single large, crushing sphere of wind chakra that he too expelled from his mouth. Caught off guard, Naruto had to use several vines to root himself to the ground, in order not to be blown away. Tsunade, while not directly targeted by the jutsu, had less luck. With several gashes over his body, the now bleeding Naruto closed his eyes. Well, I had intended to give everyone a show of our power. That way, they'll stop with their foolish attempts to attack us. Are you sure it is wise to reveal your senjutsu? Akatsuki already knows, so who cares? Let the 5 villages fear me, or otherwise trust our power. In this war, we can't afford distractions. Are you with me, Kurama? What choice do I have? The fox replied dryly. But the surge of chakra which Naruto felt through his body, rapidly healing the shallow wounds, told a different story. Kurama was eager to get this over with. With access to far more chakra of his own, well, his own and Kurama's, Naruto realized that it was far easier to absorb natural energy. It went faster, and Naruto could gather more. Perhaps that was why the wooden dragon was bigger than usual. It shot out, quick as a snake, capturing Danzo in its jaws. The mental command to murder the man was hardly necessary, as if the dragon felt its master's intent. Yet, once again Danzo disappeared. Once again Danzo resurfaced unharmed. Well, with the exception of losing a sizable chunk of his chakra reserves. Sage mode was definitely useful when it came to his sensory perception, and Naruto was quick on the uptake. Even if Danzo was somehow capable of escaping from death, he'd only be able to do it a limited number of times. With his current reserves, Naruto estimated that 5 or 6 casts would render him incapable of fighting seriously. Naruto's eyes narrowed when he noticed a second oddity. Danzo's arm was covered with eyes, yet many were already closed. In fact, after his latest diss and reappearance, one more eye had been closed. From the way they were disconnected from Danzo's chakra, Naruto realized that those eyes had died. I see. So my jutsu would be useless, Naruto scowled, ending the Makuryo no jutsu with a single flick of his fingers. You are an annoying opponent, old man. Are you sure you don't want to fall in line and simply obey the orders your Hokage gives you? You would be useful when we are going to attack Amigakure. Danzo said nothing, but his defiance was clear. Danzo was an extremist, and he had committed himself to a different path. It was a path which had led to failure, but nonetheless he could not abandon it. Senpo Mokuton, Shinjuchiman Kanon, Sage Art would release, the true 11-headed Kanon. Naruto looked down on the startled man. Ever during Naruto's drastic increases in chakra, Danzo had barely shown any change in expression. The creation of the gigantic statue, on the other hand, left him speechless. You wanted a show, and you've given one. Yes, Kurama, we have, Naruto smirked, silently thanking the Bija. Without Kurama's aid, Naruto would not be able to create this colossal statue this easily. Standing atop its head, which was adorned with the 11 heads it was known for, Naruto realized that this appearance, in the middle of the village, would most definitely leave an impression. It easily towered over any building within Konoha, after all. The palm of Juchiman's right hand, the hand which annulled any jutsu, shot down at the stunned old man. Well, to be fair, Naruto had to admit that he cheated a little, using several vines to prevent Danzo from escaping. The Kanon's size and strength made it nearly invulnerable, but its lumbering speed was a huge downside. Oh well, when killing prey a hunter shouldn't be too picky in his methods. This was a lesson which Kakuzu had taught well. Besides, underhanded tactics were second nature to any shinobi. You do realize that this just about redefines the word overkill, don't you? Naruto smiled faintly, agreeing with the wily old fox, though not without thinking about the irony that the Kyuubi, of all creatures, was accusing him of overkill. No, this was necessary. Pain was strong, and who knew what other contingencies Akatsuki had planned? There was no room for this shinobi alliance to be weak. If there was still doubt and hesitation, a skilled spy like Zetsu would undoubtedly find ways to exploit it. The worst thing to happen would be if one of more of the villages would decide to betray the others on the worst possible moment. And I take it you don't want to end up being a part of the Jubi again, HMPF. Just remember that those pests will be terrified of you. That fear might give them reason to attack us as well, the moment you show any sign of weakness. As long as it is after this war, Naruto mentally shrugged. Right now, those long-term consequences were of a lesser importance. Right now, crushing Danzo was a more urgent matter. Danzo, who was currently trapped under the giant right hand of the 11-headed Kanon. That same Danzo was in a state of silent panic. He could see that the wooden statue expelled some sort of strange chakra, blocking off his. His broken body caused him great pain, and the continued pressure of the giant would undoubtedly crush him completely. It was bad enough on a normal day, but even worse now. Normally, Danzo had his escape mechanism. Izanagi was supposed to be an infallible way to cheat death, making illusions reality, thus undoing any lethal damage. And yet, why was that statue's chakra inhibiting him from controlling his own chakra? He couldn't perform a single jutsu, for the acts of treason committed, assaulting the Tsuchikage and acting against the will of the Godame Hokage of Konohagakure. I hereby condemn you to death, Shimura Danzo, Naruto spoke up, loud enough for the gathered audience to hear. After all, one does not create a gigantic wooden statue without attracting attention. Apart from the native shinobi, the Kazekage, Nizukage, and Reikage were all there, flanked by their respective guards. His senses extended through the Kanon. Naruto felt the sickening snapping of Danzo's bones. This time, the old crone didn't disappear and reappear. Still, to be perfectly clear, Naruto exerted more pressure. Then, the arm with all the Sharingan embedded in them suddenly grew out of control. I wonder how he constructed that arm, Naruto mumbled to himself. Growing into a tree, it doesn't make any sense. Oh well, he sighed. No heartbeat. No active chakra. The man was dead. Time to end the show. A single hand sign ended the jutsu, and the gigantic statue shrunk back into the ground, leaving only the mass of roots and the tiny tree which sprouted from Danzo's arm. On the other hand, it was oddly fitting that the man had grown roots. Not to mention that the tree's leaves had a familiar shade of crimson, one which Naruto dubbed as Sharingan Red. Brat, Tsunade's brow twitched. Did you just execute one of the village elders in the middle of the village? Eyesight doesn't get any better with age, does it? Naruto retorted with a joke that he knew would get under Tsunade's skin. The old man tried to attack the Tsuchikage. He still seems weird, you might want to check up on him. You're the healer, after all. We'll talk about this later, she promised ominously. Naruto smirked when he realized that Kakuzu could have learned a thing or two from the woman when it came to giving dirty looks. Obviously, she did not like how he, a shinobi whose affiliations were disputed, acted with such force in the middle of her village. As he was turning back to return to the Yamanaka family, the Kazekage approached him. He saw the Reikage's appreciating look, and the Mizukage's well-concealed fear, but Temari of the Sand seemed mostly unfazed by what had just occurred. Kazekage-sama, he bowed slightly. Naruto, she spoke with a hostility that confused Naruto a bit, until the details connected. It's been a while, Temari. I'm sorry, Naruto apologized. I'm sorry for what happened to Gaara. Why? It was one word, yet she asked many questions with it. Because I did not remember him. You tend to put things in a different perspective when having no recollection of anything. Zetsu and Kakuzu practically re-educated me from scratch, trained me to become the perfect weapon, and a tool doesn't second-guess its wielder's commands. He looked Temari in the eyes and gestured her to follow him. If I had known, I couldn't have killed, or aided in killing, a friend. If I had remembered him, I would have done all I could to rescue him. But sadly, I did not remember. Since when do you remember? A few days, Naruto answered honestly. I had some weird dreams, faintly recognized some of the people of my past, but it was all too vague. A few days ago, well, back when Zetsu tried to use one of his goons to take control of my body, my memories were sealed away. A few days ago, I was in a rather bad state of mind. Losing the one you love tends to bring people down. In my case, as a Jinchuriki, emotions sometimes trigger more than just tears. Gaara struggled, Temari mumbled. You defeated him, you gave him a chance to be himself again. But when he learned you died, he almost lost that fragile balance. Kankuro and I had trouble reaching him, but eventually we got through to him. We told him that you would never want him to give up. He became Kage because of you, Uzumaki Naruto. You inspired him. It is why I find it so bitter that you were amongst the people who killed him. I understand, Naruto sighed. There are many things I must atone for. Unknowingly or not, I caused a lot of grief. Or aided in causing it. While I cannot say that I regret capturing the tyrant Yagura, practically ending the civil war in Kiri, I am ashamed that I captured the Jinchuriki of the Nanabai. Fu was a good person, despite the problems that she had to face as a Jinchuriki. She, like Gaara, deserved a better life, but this world doesn't care about such things as fairness. He looked up, watching the clouds drift by. We are all sinners, Temari. You, as a Kage, must understand that. I spent a lot of time in Amigakure, Naruto spoke up after she remained silent. The people of AIM have suffered a lot at the hands of shinobi of IWA, Suna, and Konoha. The actions of the 5 villages have given birth to Akatsuki, Temari. The shinobi world is rotten. Double-crossing and death is the standard among shinobi, but the civilians and weak villages are simply condemned to suffer at the hands of those stronger than them. No, what I want is a world of peace. A world where people like Fu, Gaara, or me, aren't created. A world not filled with traumatized people, or else another Akatsuki will inevitably rise. By the sound of it, you are the next Akatsuki. Nope, Naruto chuckled. Mass murder, hoarding power, those things don't matter to me. I only want peace. I promised I'd give her a world of peace. I don't care about myself, I have no goals left. With the exception of death. Like I said, I have plenty of sins to atone for. Don't you want to become Hokage? Temari frowned. Me? I don't think I'm still fit to lead a Konoha. Besides, my agenda will most likely not align with Konoha's. How do you even think you're going to achieve your goals, all by yourself? Temari disagreed. You will need others, Naruto. Powerful as you may be, you cannot achieve your dream just by yourself unless you are planning to use your power to enforce the peace. And the Naruto I know would never want that. Besides, do you think Gaara just did what the village wanted? Do you know how much Gaara hated it? The village shunned him, our father created him, as you said, and the rest of his family was too afraid to get close. He hated himself, lost himself, until you stopped him. After that, he decided that it was pointless to keep hating the world, and that he was going to change things. He changed our village by leading it. Think about it, Naruto. You always talked about becoming Hokage. How are you going to change the world, if you can't even change your own village? To that, Naruto had no answer. Temari bid him farewell and headed off to her own quarters. Surprisingly confused, Naruto walked towards the Yamanaka's place, wondering what he should do. Temari was right in a sense. He had no real solutions, no path he intended to take that would lead to a lasting peace. How was he going to change things, if he didn't even want to change the village he once called home? Was it because he didn't want to make Tsunade an enemy? Things were much easier when I didn't give a damn about anything. Easier or emptier? Don't lie to yourself, brat. What was it that he wanted? He was torn. The old Naruto was obsessively loyal to Konoha, yet the new one knew that Konoha wasn't nearly as perfect as it pretended to be. The new Naruto knew about the darker secrets, which caused grief to those living between borders, or those who had turned away from their villages, seeking an escape which did not exist in this world. He had hunted those people. The poor Yamanaka woman still came to mind. He had done it all for money. Money, it made kept the machine of war operating. Why was it that Suna had attacked Konoha? Not just due to Orochimaru's deception, but because of a lack of funding. Konoha had been too successful, and as a result, Suna had gotten fewer missions from its daimyo. Money. Missions provide pay. And without conflict, there were far fewer missions. A world of peace would be counterproductive. Peace would destroy the economy that sustains the hidden villages. Do you intend to raze all the hidden villages to the ground? That would end this system. No, if I wanted that I wouldn't have defected from Akatsuki. Perhaps Temari is right. I still need to find an answer. Why shouldn't I begin to seek for that answer right here? HMPF. At least you're not arrogant enough to presume that you already know the one best way to solve everything. Lost in thought, Naruto was surprised when he saw Ino standing in front of him. Ino, Mom's a bit tired from all the chaos of today. Dad's still busy at TNI. How about getting a bite to eat downtown? It's been 3 years since I last ate ramen, Naruto blinked. 3 years. I wonder how I managed to survive without it.